Welcome to episode number 30 of the American Regulars podcast. I'm not going to bury the lead on this one, guys. We have a doozy of an episode. We're going to be talking about the second attempted assassination of Donald Trump in just a matter of a couple months. I'm wondering what the over-under is at this point on Trump assassinations before Election Day, early November. Is it 2.5? I mean, is Vegas taking odds on this? And what about until he gets inaugurated, if he were to win, or till the end of his presidency? How many of these are we going to see? It's starting to feel like this is these assassination attempts might not be anomalies. Right before I got on, and I just said I'm going to try to bury the lead. We're going to talk about the most recent Trump assassination that happened at the golf course. But I just saw right before getting on, there's like 20-some people reporting that they had like chemical burns and eye pain and severe, like swollen throats and stuff at one of that sat on the stage at his speech, his campaign rally in Tucson. People are wondering if there wasn't a chemical attack there now. Now, that's all pretty unverified. I saw that just before I got on. If I'm able to pull out another episode this week, and I think I might have to, maybe there will be updates on that. But for the time being, let's talk about Sunday. Trump, once again, dealing with an assassination attempt. Now, this one's not quite so close, and it wasn't on camera. But he's at his golf course. He's at his golf course in Florida. And apparently this is unannounced, which already makes this one much different. No, he wasn't shot at. But let's just look at this. 2 assassination attempts. Very different in a lot of regards, but eerily similar in others. First off, I don't think we can just call stuff conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists anymore. At some point, you got to start calling the other side of those people like coincidence theorists or something. Because everything's always just a coincidence. And we're going to get into some stuff later that is just wild. It's the only way I can say it. But Trump is golfing Sunday afternoon, I believe. And at one point, a couple holes ahead of wherever it was he was golfing, whatever hole he was on, Secret Service, this time, recognizes the shooter and decides to not let them shoot. And as far as I'm aware, they shot at the shooter. They recognized a barrel, like sticking out of the bushes or something to that effect. They recognized that there was a shooter there. The shooter gets up, runs off, gets in a stolen vehicle that he had previously stolen, I believe, and takes off from there. When they get to the spot where the shooter was, there's a AK-47 with some sort of optics, I believe a high-powered scope. He had hung ballistic plates up, right, expecting to, maybe have some fire incoming at him once he got his shot off from the president. Now, Crooks was just a couple hundred feet away. It was really a pop shot. When he shot President Trump in the ear. This guy got within 400 to 500 yards, which, I mean, with the high-powered optics, I mean, we're talking this is, and I don't know if you ever had a clear line of sight or anything, but this is still fairly close. What's very weird about this one is, like, with the Crooks assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, it's pretty obvious. Like, hey, Trump's coming. There's a campaign. We're going to set him up right here. Like, you have time to figure it out, scope the area, and he knows where Trump's going to be. It's very strange that this man was able to know that Trump, I mean, we know Trump golfs, and it's not a surprise that he's golfing at his own golf course. But to know or to be, was he just sitting there for so long saying, oh, he'll show up one of these times, and he's just staked out there for how long? Very suspicious how he was in the right place, right time on that. Now, it wasn't quite the right place, right time, as he never got a shot, but how did he know what day and when Trump would be there? That's interesting. Anyhow, this guy named Ryan Wesley Routh, or Routh, however you want to pronounce it, I really don't care. He gets pulled over a little bit away from there. They get him pretty quickly and doesn't put up a fight. They say he seems pretty serene, pretty calm or placid, and unarmed at that point. So, in terms of the actual event, far less eventful. Still a big deal, but less eventful. There were shots, but they were at the assassin. They do catch him. It's not a shootout where they hit Trump, they kill other people in the area, and then the Secret Service finally gets the go-ahead to react or whatever happened in Pennsylvania, and then they shoot him dead. This one is over and just much less climactic. But that's not where this story gets interesting. The story is in the assassin, or would-be assassin, Ryan Routh. Of course, he'll undoubtedly be a lone wolf. So let's just say that now. Let's take the side of the coincidence theorists and say that Ryan Routh is a lone wolf. But this lone wolf, and I guess, to be fair, lone wolves probably are strange in general when they are lone wolves. This lone wolf has a very, very strange past. This isn't going to be completely chronological because it's too crazy to just have this straight narrative. But Ryan Routh has been known. He's made the papers before. He's made videos before, as we'll get into. And let's just start with this. He's been arrested before. He got into an armed standoff at one point. He had went into his building. I believe this was Greensboro. Was it North Carolina? South Carolina? One of those. Right? He basically fled police, went into his business with a gun, had a 3-hour standoff with him, where he was later charged with possession of a weapon of mass destruction. Okay. Now for this, how long was this guy locked up? He wasn't. He was locked up for, he wasn't locked up. He was put on probation for, I believe, 60 months. To what I read, now when I hear weapon of mass destruction, I think WMDs, right? The stuff Colin Powell warned us about, the stuff Kim Jong-un has, the stuff Iran's working on. Now, in this case, I believe the state law or whatever, it was a machine gun, fully automatic, right? But he gets probation for it. And, I mean, I'm not arguing that a man should go to jail for that, but I'm saying under the law, a weapon of mass destruction charge in probation seems a little suspicious, all right? Now, that was a while ago. What's been happening since then? I believe he did vote for Trump in 2016. He says he regrets it. And once the war in Ukraine kicked off, this guy goes off the reservation. Literally. He leaves America, which he says he was stationed in Hawaii, or had moved and lived in Hawaii. It sounds like he has a business that's extremely inactive, but he's able to jet set across the world to war zones, to foreign countries, and he had found his true calling recruiting people for the Ukraine resistance of in the Ukrainian-Russian war, right? He's trying to get people to go and fight for Zelensky in Ukraine against Russia. Said he was going to try to join up, but by that time, he's 58 currently, so at that time he's in his mid-50s. He wasn't a soldier. They said, we're not really looking for you. So he tries to recruit people, and he's got these weird social media. They scrubbed as much social media as they could, as quickly as it got out who this guy was. But people save it, and it's just kind of a race to get to that stuff. And he's got a lot of tweets and posts recruiting people, trying to recruit people to fight for Ukraine. Now, who in the U.S. usually is recruiting fighters in proxy wars? The CIA. Yes, if I was wondering about just letting that hang in the air for a moment longer, but that is what the CIA does. I mean, that's how ISIS started. That's how Al-Qaeda started from the Mujahideen, funding radicals to fight in proxy wars. That is the bread and butter of the CIA. Of course, the CIA has nothing to do with this guy. I should say that. The Zelensky government says they have nothing to do with this guy. This guy's a lone wolf. Now, before he was a lone wolf assassin, he was a lone wolf war recruiter. But it doesn't really make sense. Like, you'll see that these things are just coincidences. I'm a coincidence theorist. Routh, some of the people he was trying to recruit really don't have anything to do with U.S. foreign policy. He wasn't just trying to recruit Ukrainians, right? Because obviously there is a lot of CIA bases that were discovered in Ukraine. And you could argue that the Yanukovych regime, you can't even argue, it happened. The Yanukovych regime was overthrown in the Maidan coup, or the Maidan revolution, whatever you want to call it. The CIA, the UN, right? The State Department had their hands in on that. The Russians have found like a dozen CIA bases in Ukraine. So we do know that the CIA has a bit of a hand in Ukraine. But he wasn't just recruiting Ukrainians. So, I mean, it doesn't like, not everywhere he was recruiting had to do with the CIA. He was also trying to recruit people from Afghanistan. And obviously people from Afghanistan, like the CIA hasn't meddled it. Like, that's not U.S. foreign policy stuff. We've never done anything in Afghanistan. This guy was a lone wolf, Ukraine war recruiter for people who had previously fought against the Taliban in Afghanistan. This is separate, okay? But it is strange. It is peculiar. Now, don't believe for a second that this guy was just some gun for hire. Routh is a true believer. He's on video saying a lot of wild stuff. Let's go to something. He's on video in a clip. I think it was like Newsweek Romania or something like that. And this guy's a war hawk. A lot of the news is really hesitant to say that he wasn't a Trump supporter, which is fairly apparent by the fact that he was trying to kill Donald Trump. Now, he self-described himself as neither a Democrat or a Republican. And when you look at his beliefs, at least on foreign policy, I'd say if he's anything, he just loves neocons. I mean, this guy, Bill Kristol, right? And whoever else, John Brennan, all these, not John Brennan, Bill Kristol, Dick Cheney, these guys that go from Republican and on the right, they had no problem switching to the left when it came to supporting their love of war. And this guy's no different, other than he's not a big, powerful guy like those men. He's a lonely, self-employed, but doesn't make much money, but recruits people across the world kind of guy. Max Blumenthal, great journalist, put up a thing. Ryan Wesley wrote a book, and the book was titled The Unwinnable War. More or less. It might have had something else in it. Yeah, Unwinnable War, The Fatal Flaw of Democracy, World Abandonment, and the Global Citizen, Taiwan, Afghanistan, North Korea, World War III, and the End of Humanity. It was self-published. Let me tell you some of the things that Max Blumenthal provides for us after he read this. Routh says that he would like to see Vladimir Putin assassinated. Seems to hope for Trump's assassination as well. I think he was trying to beg at one point for Iran to assassinate Donald Trump. And he calls for the U.S. to instigate a nuclear war with Russia. Calls for the U.S. to instigate a nuclear war with Russia. He offers gushing admiration for Juan Guaido, the Free Syrian Army, not CIA related, remember, I'm a coincidence theorist, the Myanmar rebels, and other CIA-backed forces. This is coincidences. All right. Routh urges the West to instigate a nuclear conflict with Russia and strike first. He wants a quick and decisive, powerful blow to end it once and for all, as the U.S. did at the end of World War II. Okay. Project for a New American Century, Lone Wolf Edition. All of this proves you, but one, this guy is a big fan of violence. He's a big fan of war. He hates Trump, and this happens very shortly after the debate when Trump once again mentioned his desire to end the war and said that he would end the war with in Ukraine as quickly as possible. They said, "Are you saying that you don't want?" I'm glad Routh didn't know me. I said the best part of Trump's debate was when they asked him, "Do you want Ukraine to win?" He goes, "I want people to quit dying." Right? Routh's not about that. He didn't care if people were dying. He was trying to bring in Afghani sheep herders, right, to fight the Russians. And by the way, this isn't, obviously Routh is a lone wolf, right? This is a coincidence. But is ISIS, I have which episode was this? I have an episode earlier in the year, and I mentioned that there was ISIS fighters, I think primarily from the Caucasus, that were up fighting for Ukraine, right, against them. Oh, failed to mention in the video earlier, I said he had a video, he's written a book. He also showed up in a propaganda video. Some have been saying was from BlackRock or connected to BlackRock. I cannot verify that. But in this propaganda video during the siege of Mariupol, you see the face of the assassin or would-be assassin, Ryan Routh. It is an Azov Brigade video, more or less. The main people fighting in the Mariupol siege on the Ukrainian side were the Azov Brigade, noted neo-Nazis, Banderites, right? Ukrainian SS heritage to that brigade, right? He also has contacts with not only the Azov Brigade, but I saw seemingly he has other contacts with the Misanthropic Division, who've been seen killing Russian soldiers on video. Like, that's who we're dealing with here. This wasn't a guy that just got bored one day and thought he'd try to get his name in the papers. He was a true believer, though why he was a true believer we're not really sure, because he definitely wasn't involved with the U.S. government or the Ukrainian government in any way. They've both said so. Okay, now that we've established that, I need to get to the weirdest part of the coincidence theory. I am going to read you an article that was posted on August 30th of this year. Now keep in mind as we read this is the 18th. All right, so this took place on the 15th of September. The article I am going to read you was posted on August 30th, and the title is Maxwell Urich has gone missing since the Trump rally. Now, I will say, I've never heard of this website before. It doesn't sound particularly like prestigious. I can't verify if anything they say on here is true. I don't know that. And furthermore, I'm not telling you that anything on here is true. I'm just telling you what is on here. And this is the coincidence theory part. Okay, Maxwell Urich, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know, was the first guy they thought the shooter was. In the early hours of the first Trump assassination, before they knew that the shooter was Crooks, a lot of people were saying it was a kid named Maxwell Urich. Okay, I'm going to read part of this article, and then we'll kind of skip to the good, the juicy part. Okay, Maxwell Urich went missing on 14th July Sunday. His parents filed a missing person report with the FBI after his phone went off. Unknown people have deleted Facebook and Instagram accounts of Maxwell Urich. Urich and Thomas Crooks trained at a sports club together. Now, keep in mind, this is written almost 25 days before Ryan Routh set up shop to shoot Donald Trump. Okay, bank records of Thomas Crooks reveal a few unusual payments to two individuals, Ryan Routh and Peter Riddle. Now, I have no clue who Peter Riddle is, but man, is his phone just ringing off the hook right now, I must imagine. We attempted to contact Ryan Routh through his Facebook account, but the messages weren't delivered. which is another unusual aspect of this case. The home of the other suspect, Peter Riddle, in Virginia, has been locked since July. So what we are seeing here, people, is a guy talking about the first Trump assassination attempt, looking at bank records of the assassination of the first assassin, Thomas Crooks, and the two unusual payments that he cites 25 days before this second apparent assassination, the second assassination attempt. One of the men is named Ryan Routh. Now, Ryan's a pretty common name. I haven't ran into too many Rouths. I don't know if I've ever ran into a single Routh. I'm not saying that name doesn't exist, and I'm not saying there's not more than one Ryan Routh. Okay? It does down here say Ryan Routh and Maxwell Urich worked at Patterson Energy between April, July of 2021. Now, I don't know. I tried to look up Patterson Energy. I found no link between Patterson Energy and Ryan Routh, and certainly I couldn't find it at all, let alone to make sure it was the Ryan Routh that had lived in the Carolinas and Hawaii and was a lone wolf Ukrainian mercenary recruiter. Like, I have not found anything to validate this. Nothing whatsoever. Or to suggest that this Ryan Routh he's speaking of, if this is even true at all, is the right Ryan Routh. I have none of that. But what are the odds, though? What are the odds that the name Ryan Routh is in an article about the first assassination? It looks like this guy paid him. This is just absolutely insane. I don't know what to do with it. Like I said, I'm a coincidence theorist. I believe these things are all to be a coincidence. And what coincidences do we have here, people? I would be very scared of the possibility of what further coincidences might be colluding right now if I were President Trump. Absolutely insane to see this. All right. Before I get to the last part, try to give you something a little more humorous, please go to YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, American Regulars Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, great. Come follow me on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere else you get your podcasts. Leave comments. If you want to email me directly, AmericanRegularsPodcast@gmail.com, and follow me on Twitter at reg_American1. Do all those things. Have your friends do all those things. All right. Now, a little bit of levity. Hopefully I can get another podcast in Saturday, because we haven't even talked about the pagers going off in Lebanon, blowing up Hezbollah legs. We haven't talked about Hillary Clinton proposing to lock people up for misinformation. And who knows what tomorrow brings. Each day is just absolutely wild. But not that long ago, Gavin Newsome, left-wing turd from California, the governor of such place, signed a bill into law, an unconstitutional one, basically trying to make AI parody accounts of like campaigns and things of that nature illegal. Okay, now, far be it from me to preach to my listeners. I know you're smart enough to know about the First Amendment. Gavin Newsome apparently wasn't. And so this bill, this unconstitutional bill that he signed into law, has been getting a little bit of scrutiny. But the good people at the Babylon Bee are pushing back for Gavin Newsome. And it seems like there was some sort of collaboration. Obviously, I could never decipher whether this was satire or not, because I'm just a dumb human that can't distinguish satire or not. which thankfully we now have a bill in California written to protect little old me from spreading misinformation and protecting little old you from having to hear it. So, with that law in mind, let's listen to the Babylon Bee and what I think is either AI generated or else it's an extremely real collaboration of Gavin Newsome, and it's his campaign, upcoming campaign commercial. So, whichever one it is, there's no way I could ever tell because I'm just too stupid. We probably need this legislated. Whichever one it is, let's give it a listen.
Hi, I'm Gavin Newsome, the governor of California. This is a message for the people of America, given in my authentically recorded, non-AI voice. Thanks to my leadership over the last several years, California has become a world leader in extremist left-wing governance. My policies were so effective that almost 1 million people are now fleeing the state every year. We even ran out of U-Hauls. During the COVID pandemic, I locked everyone in their homes and shut down businesses for months. Not the French Laundry, though. That's my favorite restaurant. Last year, I cleaned up the dangerous, messy streets of San Francisco, because Chinese Communist President Xi was coming, and I really wanted to impress him. He's my boss, after all. This year, I signed legislation that allows me to take custody of your kid if you refuse to give him artificial hormones and chop off his genitals. Because if you don't do that, you're a bigot, and bigots shouldn't be allowed to have kids. I've also led the way in green energy by banning all cars that don't run on electricity. Then I banned almost all the electricity. This is smart leadership. On my watch, the cost of living and homelessness have skyrocketed. Schools are failing. Drug dealers and human traffickers are pouring across the border. And poop has covered the sidewalks of San Francisco. This is the positive, joyful vision we offer as Democrats. That's why I'm enthusiastically endorsing Kamala Harris for president in 2024. She'll do to the country everything I did in California. Anyway, I'm California Governor Gavin Newsome, and I approve this 100% real message, which is a recording of my voice without the assistance of any AI whatsoever. This isn't a deep fake, and you can rest assured that it isn't, because I just signed an unconstitutional law outlawing deep fakes. No one would dare violate it. Thank you, and science bless America.
All right. How good is that? So, that's a nice little note to leave it on. Thank you, Gavin Newsome. Science bless America, and science bless the Babylon Bee. You guys have a good one. I will talk to you later.